Reference: Sahihal-Bukhari 121-129 in book reference, Book 3, Hadith 63-71 USC MSA Web, English, reference, Volume 1, Book 3, Hadith 122-131 Chapter 43 To be quiet and listen to religious learned men. Narrated Jurir. The Prophet said to me during Hajjat al-Wada, let the people keep quiet and listen. Then he said, addressing the people, do not become infidels, revert to disbelief after me by striking the necks, cutting the throats of one another, killing each other. Chapter 44. When a religious learned man is asked, who is the most learned person? It is better for him to attribute or entrust absolute knowledge to Allah Azza wa Jal and to say, Allah is the most learned, than anybody else. Narrated Said bin Jubair. I said to Ibn Abbas, Naf al-Bakli claims that Moses, the companion of Khadir, was not the Moses of Bani Israel but he was another Moses. Ibn Abbas remarked that the enemy of Allah, Naf, was a liar. Narrated Ba ibn Kib. The Prophet said, once the Prophet, Moses stood up and addressed Bani Israel. He was asked, who is the most learned man amongst the people? He said, I am the most learned. Allah had admonished Moses as he did not attribute absolute knowledge to him, Allah. So Allah inspired to him at the junction of the two seas, there is a slave amongst my slaves who is more learned than you. Moses said, O my Lord, how can I meet him? Allah said, take a fish in a large basket, and proceed, and you will find him at the place where you will lose the fish. So Moses set out along with his servant, boy, Yushab bin Nun, and carried a fish in a large basket till they reached a rock, where they laid their heads, i.e. lay down, and slept. The fish came out of the basket and it took its way into the sea as in a tunnel. So it was an amazing thing for both Moses and his servant, boy. They proceeded for the rest of that night and the following day. When the day broke, Moses said to his servant, boy, bring us our early meal. No doubt, we have suffered much fatigue in this journey. Moses did not get tired till he passed the place about which he was told. There the servant, boy told Moses, do you remember when we betook ourselves to the rock? I indeed forgot the fish. Moses remarked, that is what we have been seeking. So they went back retracing their footsteps, till they reached the rock. There they saw a man covered with a garment, or covering himself with his own garment. Moses greeted him. Al-Khadir replied saying, how do people greet each other in your land? Moses said, I am Moses. He asked, the Moses of Bani Israel? Moses replied in the affirmative and added, may I follow you so that you teach me of that knowledge which you have been taught? Al-Khadir replied, verily, you will not be able to remain patient with me, O Moses. I have some of the knowledge of Allah which He has taught me and which you do not know, while you have some knowledge which Allah has taught you which I do not know. Moses said, Allah willing, you will find me patient and I will disobey no order of yours. So both of them set out walking along the seashore, as they did not have a boat. In the meantime a boat passed by them and they requested the crew of the boat to take them on board. The crew recognized Al-Khadir and took them on board without fare. Then a sparrow came and stood on the edge of the boat and dipped its beak once or twice in the sea. Al-Khadir said, O Moses, my knowledge and your knowledge have not decreased Allah's knowledge except as much as the sparrow has decreased the water of the sea with its beak. Al-Khadir went to one of the planks of the boat and plucked it out. Moses said, these people gave us a free lift but you have broken their boat and scuttled it so as to drown its people. Al-Khadir replied, didn't I tell you that you will not be able to remain patient with me? Moses said, call me not to account for what I forgot. The first excuse of Moses was that he had forgotten. Then they proceeded further and found a boy playing with other boys. Al-Khadir took hold of the boy's head from the top and plucked it out with his hands, i.e. killed him. Moses said, have you killed an innocent soul who has killed none? Al-Khadir replied, did I not tell you that you cannot remain patient with me? Then they both proceeded till when they came to the people of a town, they asked them for food, but they refused to entertain them. Then they found there a wall on the point of collapsing. Al-Khadir repaired it with his own hands. Moses said, if you had wished, surely you could have taken wages for it. Al-Khadir replied, this is the parting between you and me. The Prophet added, "May Allah be merciful to Moses. Would that he could have been more patient to learn more about his story with Al-Khadir." Chapter 45. Whosoever, while standing, asked a religious learned man who was sitting on a pulpit or a similar thing, about something. Narrated Abu Musa. A man came to the Prophet and asked, "O Allah's Messenger, what kind of fighting is in Allah's cause?" I ask this, for some of us fight because of being enraged and angry, and some for the sake of his pride and haughtiness. The Prophet raised his head, as the questioner was standing, and said, "He who fights so that Allah's word, Islam, should be superior, then he fights in Allah's cause." Chapter 46. To ask about a religious matter and to give a religious verdict, at Mina during Hajj, while doing the Rami of Jamar, throwing of pebbles at the Jamar in Mina during Hajj. Narrated Abdullah bin Ammar. I saw the Prophet near the Jamrah, and the people were asking him questions about religious problems. A man asked, "O Allah's Messenger, I have slaughtered the Hari animal before doing the Rami." The Prophet replied, "Do the Rami now, and there is no harm." Another person asked, "O Allah's Messenger, I got my head shaved before slaughtering the animal." The Prophet replied, "Do the slaughtering now, and there is no harm." So on that day, when the Prophet was asked about anything as regards the ceremonies of Hajj performed before or after its due time, his reply was, "Do it now, and there is no harm." Chapter 47. The statement of Allah Ta'ala, "And of knowledge you, mankind, have been given only a little." Narrated Abdullah. While I was going with the Prophet through the ruins of Medina, and he was reclining on a date palm leaf stalk, some Jews passed by. Some of them said to the others, "Ask him, the Prophet, about the Spirit." Some of them said that they should not ask him that question, as he might give a reply which would displease them. But some of them insisted on asking, and so one of them stood up and asked, "O Abul Qasim, what is the Spirit?" The Prophet remained quiet. I thought he was being inspired divinely. So I stayed till that state of the Prophet, while being inspired, was over. The Prophet then said, "And they ask you, O Muhammad, concerning the Spirit, say, the Spirit, its knowledge is with my Lord. And of knowledge you, mankind, have been given only a little." 17.85. Chapter 48. Whosoever left some optional things simply for the fear that some people may not be able to understand them and may fall into something more difficult. Narrated Aswad. Ibn Asbir said to me, "Aisha used to tell you secretly a number of things. What did she tell you about the Kaaba?" I replied, "She told me that once the Prophet said, 'O Aisha, had not your people been still close to the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, infidelity, I would have dismantled the Kaaba and would have made 2 doors in it, one for entrance and the other for exit.'" Later on Ibn Asbir did the same. Chapter 49. Whoever selected some people to teach them religious knowledge, preferring them over others for fear that the others may not understand it. Narrated Abu at-Tufail. Whoever selected some people to teach them religious knowledge, preferring them over others for fear that the others may not understand it. Statement of Ali. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Once Muad was along with Allah's Messenger as a companion rider. Allah's Messenger said, "O Muad bin Jabal." Muad replied, "Labbaik and Sadaiq." "O Allah's Messenger." Again the Prophet said, "O Muad." Muad said thrice, "Labbaik and Sadaiq, O Allah's Messenger." Allah's Messenger said, "There is none who testifies sincerely that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and Muhammad is his apostle, except that Allah will save him from the hellfire." Muad said, "O Allah's Messenger, should I not inform the people about it so that they may have glad tidings?" He replied, "When the people hear about it, they will solely depend on it." Then Muad narrated the above-mentioned hadith just before his death, being afraid of committing sin by not telling the knowledge. Narrated Anas. I was informed that the Prophet had said to Muad, "Whosoever will meet Allah without associating anything in worship with him will go to paradise." Muad asked the Prophet, "Should I not inform the people of this good news?" The Prophet replied, "No, I am afraid lest they should depend upon it absolutely." Thank you so much for watching and your patience.